Introduction. Was it really just chance? You ever meet someone and, within minutes, feel like you've known them forever? Or cross paths with a stranger at just the right moment? Maybe a quiet smile on a hard day, a conversation that shifts your mindset, or a betrayal that awakens something deep in you. We chalk it up to coincidence, timing, randomness. But what if none of it was random? What if, just what if, every person who's crossed your path was meant to do so? Not in a mystical, floaty sort of way, but in a deeply personal, transformative, sometimes painful, sometimes healing way. You're not alone in wondering about this. In fact, nearly every major spiritual tradition, from ancient Buddhist teachings to modern psychological insights, whispers the same truth beneath their layers. People are mirrors, teachers, messengers. Some are here to stay, some to break you open, some to simply pass through with a single piercing lesson. But no one, and I mean no one, enters your life by accident. Part 1. The invisible threads that connect us. You know that odd feeling when someone appears in your life, and it's like they were meant to be there? Maybe it's someone you randomly met on a train who ended up helping you navigate a personal crisis, or that friend who walked into your life just when you were about to give up on trusting people altogether. What you're feeling there, that deep rightness, isn't imagination, it's resonance. In Buddhist philosophy, this idea connects to karma bandhan, the karmic threads that link souls across lifetimes, pulling them together at exactly the right moment. Think of it like this. Every interaction, every connection is a ripple from a previous cause. Maybe from this life, maybe from lifetimes before. We don't just bump into people. It's more like we magnetize each other, like tuning forks vibrating on similar frequencies. We don't always hear it, but the energy is undeniable. You attract people who align with your current emotional frequency. Feeling unworthy? You might attract someone who confirms that belief. Growing in confidence? Suddenly you're surrounded by people who support you. Healing from your past? Watch how teachers appear, sometimes dressed as enemies. And here's the kicker. You won't always recognize these moments until later. Hindsight is usually the only lens through which the dots connect. Have you ever felt like you knew someone before? There's a word for this, déjà vu. But sometimes it goes deeper than that. You meet someone and they just fit. The conversation flows. The silences are comfortable. You feel seen, sometimes more than you've felt in years. Is that chance? Or the reawakening of a soul bond? Carl Jung talked about the collective unconscious, a sort of deep, shared awareness we all tap into. In that space, we may be drawn toward people with whom we share some unseen contract. And in Buddhist teachings, it's even simpler. You meet not the person, but the lesson. People arrive when the soul is ready. Here's the thing, not every connection comes when we want it to. They come when we're ready, even if we don't think we are. Ever notice how, when you're finally healing from something, someone from your past reappears, or a new person triggers an old wound you thought was buried? That's not bad timing, that's soul timing. It's life saying, you're strong enough now to face this. Let's go a little deeper. But why these people? Let me throw a strange little theory at you. There's something called the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, also known as frequency bias. Once you learn about something, you start seeing it everywhere. It's not that the thing suddenly appeared more, you're just noticing it. Same with people. Once your inner state shifts, your perception does too. You begin to notice people who were always there, but now they resonate. It's not that they appeared suddenly, you just finally saw them. Relationships as mirrors. One of the most profound Buddhist insights is that other people are mirrors. They reflect parts of ourselves, the beautiful, the broken, the forgotten. That friend who always makes you feel empowered, a mirror of your own emerging strength, that boss who constantly belittles you, a mirror of your unresolved insecurities, that stranger who shows deep kindness with no agenda, a reflection of the gentleness you crave or already carry. It's not about blaming others. It's about becoming aware. Each interaction becomes a chance to observe yourself more honestly. But it's not always easy. Some people, let's be honest, come into your life like a storm. They knock things over, they push your buttons, they leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. And still they aren't there by mistake. They are the ones who force change, who expose wounds, who tear down your illusions. And guess what? Those people often move you forward the most. So, is it all destiny? Not exactly. You still have agency. You can choose what you learn from a connection. You can choose how long someone stays. You can even choose to walk away before the lesson is fully learned, though life has a way of circling it back. But here's what's clear. Life introduces you to the right people at the right time. Not always the easiest, but the most necessary. Great. Continuing with Part 2, The Teachers in Disguise. Let's talk about the people who don't enter your life gently, the ones who test your limits, the ones who make you question your worth, the ones who leave and leave you changed. It's easy to see the gift in people who uplift us, the ones who show up with open arms and soft eyes. But what about the ones who come with storms in their chest and sharp edges in their words? What if I told you they're teachers too? Yeah, I know, that's a tough pill to swallow, but stay with me. Because here's the quiet truth no one really tells you. The most difficult people in your life often carry the loudest lessons. They don't come to destroy you. They come to wake you up. Sometimes life doesn't whisper. Sometimes it shouts. And when it does, it often uses people. That boss who micromanaged you until you broke down. Maybe they were here to teach you boundaries, the kind you never learned to draw. That lover who lied, left, and shattered your sense of self. Maybe they cracked the parts of you that clung to validation just so you could find your own voice underneath. It hurts. It's real, but it's not meaningless. These people aren't accidents. They're awakeners. Soul contracts, a spiritual perspective. There's a concept in many spiritual circles, often shared in Buddhist adjacent or reincarnation philosophies, known as soul contracts. The idea is this: before we're born, our souls agree to meet certain people, to help each other grow, to deliver a lesson, to fulfill a karmic cycle, sometimes lovingly, sometimes painfully. Now, whether you believe in literal reincarnation or not, the metaphor still works. Some people are here to heal your heart. Others are here to break it open. It's not cruelty. It's sacred design. Growth often requires friction. Lessons don't always arrive wrapped in kindness. Here's the thing about spiritual growth. It rarely feels spiritual in the moment. It feels like heartbreak. It feels like betrayal. It feels like confusion, anxiety, even rage. We cry, "Why me?" We ask, "What did I do to deserve this?" But later, sometimes much later, we look back and realize that was the moment everything changed. It's the friend who ghosted you that taught you to stop overextending yourself for people who wouldn't bleed for you the way you bled for them. It's the sibling who never apologized that showed you forgiveness isn't always for them. It's for you. It's the harsh mentor who called you out, and it stung, but it ignited something real, a hunger to rise. The wound is where the light enters. Rumi said that, and boy, was he right. Every emotional wound is an invitation, not a sentence, not a punishment, but an opening. It invites you to explore where you still ache. Notice what you're still attached to. Ask who you're still trying to prove yourself to. Difficult people are often the hands that press on our bruises. They don't create the wound, they just reveal it. But wait, are we justifying bad behavior? Absolutely not. Let's be clear. Acknowledging that someone had a role in your growth does not excuse cruelty, abuse, or manipulation. There's no spiritual bypass here, but it does offer you power, because when you stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and start asking, "What did this awaken in me?" you shift from victim to student, and eventually to healer. Repeating patterns, that's a clue. You know how some people keep dating the same kind of toxic partner over and over again? Different faces, same lesson? That's not bad luck. That's an unlearned truth trying to repeat itself loud enough to be heard. Life repeats the lesson until you get it. And often, it delivers that lesson through people. So if you keep bumping into the same dynamic, the same betrayal, abandonment, or boundary breach, don't just change the person, change the pattern. Ask yourself, what am I still tolerating that I've outgrown? What belief about myself keeps calling this in? What wound is asking to be closed? Because when you finally get the lesson, the teacher disappears. Carl Jung and the shadow self. Let's bring in a little psychology. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and spiritual heavyweight, introduced the idea of the shadow self, the parts of us we don't like to look at, the pieces we've pushed down, denied, or repressed. Here's the kicker. We often project those shadows onto others. That person who triggers you, they might just be reflecting a part of yourself you haven't fully accepted. Angry at the friend who's too loud? Maybe you've silenced your own voice. Jealous of the colleague who speaks confidently? Maybe you're denying your own potential. Judging someone who seems self-absorbed? Maybe it's your own need for validation showing up in disguise. These aren't judgments, they're opportunities. The people who bother you most are often your best mirrors. Let me tell you a quick story. A woman, we'll call her Tara, once told me she spent years resenting her ex-husband. He was narcissistic, emotionally distant, and left her when she was at her lowest. For years, she said, she held on to that rage like a lifeline. Until one day, in a meditation workshop, something clicked. He didn't break me, she said, eyes wide. He showed me that I'd been abandoning myself long before he did. And just like that, the blame turned into awareness. The pain didn't disappear, but it became a teacher instead of a prison. Healing begins when we stop resisting the lesson. The hardest part of all this, letting go of the need to be right, to be vindicated, to be the one who was wronged. But when you do, when you soften just enough to ask, what was I meant to learn from this person? Something shifts. The anger starts to lose its grip. The sadness starts to speak less in screams and more in whispers. The hurt becomes wisdom. You begin to see people not as enemies, but as messengers. And some teachers stay forever. Let's not forget, not all hard lessons are wrapped in loss. Sometimes they're wrapped in love. There are people who show up and stay, who hold up the mirror gently, who challenge you, call you out, push you forward, and stick around. These are the soul companions, the ones who walk with you through your mess and your magic. They're teachers too, but their lessons feel like sunlight instead of fire. Great, let's continue with part 3, the ones who linger, the ones who leave. Some people walk into your life and never really leave. Others, they're gone before you can even figure out what they were here for. But both leave a mark. Some marks are soft, like fingertips on your memory. Others feel like bruises. Some fade, some stay forever. And yet, none of them are meaningless. It's strange, isn't it? How someone can be your whole world one day and a faint echo the next. Or how a 5-minute conversation with a stranger can stick with you more than a 10-year friendship. It's not about how long they stayed. It's about what they brought with them while they were there. Some people are just passing through. And that's not a tragedy. Here's a truth we all wrestle with. Not everyone is meant to stay. And honestly, that's hard to accept. You invest time, energy, love. You make space for someone in your life, in your plans, even in your future. And then, they're gone. sometimes slowly, sometimes overnight. And you're left wondering, was it all just a waste? But no, it wasn't, because some people come into your life just long enough to deliver something essential. A reminder, a redirection, a reflection, a necessary ending. They don't stay because they're not supposed to. A reason, a season, or a lifetime. You've probably heard that quote before, right? People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. It sounds like a cliche until you start living it. A reason, they appear to teach you something, often unexpectedly, sometimes painfully. A season, they walk beside you for a while. You grow together or apart, but when the time is up, they go. A lifetime, rare, deep, sacred. These are the soul-bonded ones who stay through the storms. The problem? We often try to turn seasonal people into lifetime ones. We cling, we resist, we rewrite our story just to keep them in it. But life has a way of editing things for us. Letting go without bitterness. Here's something no one prepares you for. Letting go of someone who did nothing wrong. There was no betrayal, no dramatic fallout, just change, misalignment, a quiet growing apart. And still, it hurts, because we're wired to hold on, to make things last. But growth sometimes means making peace with natural endings, with not blaming anyone, with saying thank you, even when we're crying. Because grief doesn't always come from loss. Sometimes it comes from love that didn't get to finish its sentence. The myth of forever. We live in a culture obsessed with permanence. We idolize the idea of forever friendships and till death do us part relationships. But in Buddhist philosophy, especially the truth of anicca, impermanence, nothing is fixed. Not joy, not pain, not even the people we love most. Everything changes. Everyone changes. And resisting that truth? That's the root of suffering. So what if, instead of asking, how long will this person stay, we asked, what am I here to experience with them, right now? Why it hurts when they leave. Because connection isn't just emotional, it's biological. Our brains form literal attachment patterns. Neural pathways light up. Hormones bond us. When someone disappears, we don't just lose a person. We lose a familiar rhythm in our life. The morning texts, the shared jokes, the routines, the version of ourselves. We were with them. That's what makes moving on so hard. Not just the person, but the life that existed around them. The gifts they leave behind. Here's the twist. Even the people who leave give us something. Sometimes it's clarity. Sometimes it's self-respect. Sometimes it's a memory that becomes a lighthouse in darker times. A few years ago, a man told me about a woman he loved deeply in his 30s. They only dated for 6 months. It ended quietly, no big drama, but he said, "She taught me what gentleness looks like. I carry that lesson into every relationship now, even if we don't talk anymore." See, they don't have to stay to change you. The ones who linger in memory. And then there are those who never really leave. Not entirely. They haunt your playlists, your dreams, that coffee shop on the corner you both used to visit. You've accepted they're gone, but some part of them still sits beside you when it rains. This isn't always about romance, by the way. It could be a childhood friend you lost touch with, a mentor who passed away, a stranger who said something profound and then vanished. They're not ghosts, they're anchors, reminders of who you were and how far you've come. You evolve through endings. As much as we hate them, endings serve us. They burn away the parts of us that were still attached. They strip us bare. They force us to rebuild with more awareness, more intention. Because every person who leaves teaches you how to listen more deeply, set clearer boundaries, value presence, cherish what's fleeting, trust again. And isn't that what growth is? Not the absence of pain, but the expansion of perspective. A brief pause for gratitude. Take a moment. Think of someone who left your life. Not the toxic one, not the you're still healing from, but the one who was good, kind, maybe even beloved, but who had to go. Close your eyes. Remember the laughter, the shared stories, the feeling of being seen. Now silently say, "Thank you." That's it. That's the practice. You honor the gift without demanding more. The paradox of presence. Here's a strange little truth. Some people become more present in their absence. You see them everywhere, not physically, but in the way you carry yourself now, in the books you read because of them, in the better choices you make, in the self-awareness they sparked. So, in a way, they didn't really leave at all. Absolutely. Let's continue with Part 4, When Strangers Feel Like Home. Have you ever met someone and felt calm? Not butterflies, not adrenaline, just calm. Like your nervous system recognized them before your mind could. It's eerie, right? One moment they're a stranger. The next, it's like your soul sighs in their presence. You don't know their story. You don't know where they've been. But somehow, it feels like you've known them across lifetimes. And maybe, just maybe, you have. Soul recognition, the energy before the words. Before you even speak to some people, you feel something. It's not physical attraction. It's not charisma. It's resonance, a quiet familiarity, a sense that your energies are tuned to the same frequency. In Buddhist-inspired teachings, this often relates to karma, specifically positive karmic imprints from previous lives. You cross paths again in a new context, but the bond feels timeless. Now, you don't have to believe in reincarnation to feel it. You've probably experienced it. A conversation that goes 10 layers deep in the first 5 minutes. That uncanny alignment of thoughts, values, or pain. An eye contact moment that says everything without saying a word. These are the ones that make you pause and think, wait, have we met before? Twin flames, soulmates, and kindred spirits. Okay, let's talk labels. The internet's full of terms like twin flames, karmic partners, soulmates, kindred spirits. Are they all real? Are they the same thing? Let's break it down gently. No need for mystical overwhelm. Karmic partners are here to help you grow. It's intense, but usually temporary. Soulmates feel easy, natural, like you found a missing piece. Twin flames, according to some traditions, are the most intense, a mirror of your shadow and light combined. Often turbulent, always transformational. Kindred spirits are the ones who just get you. Even if your paths only cross briefly, you don't need to sort people into boxes, but it helps to understand that not all instant connections are meant to last. Sometimes they just come to remind you who you are, the science behind the connection. Want the grounded version? There's actually science behind these intuitive bonds. Neuroscience suggests that we're wired to pick up on micro-expressions, vocal tone, and emotional resonance in milliseconds. Our brains use emotional memory, stored impressions from the past, to gauge safety, trust, and connection. So when someone feels familiar, it might be because they mirror a secure pattern from your past, or even a longing you've carried quietly for years. Still, just because it's explainable doesn't mean it's any less magical. You don't need history to feel depth. That's the strange beauty of these connections. They skip the surface. There's no small talk, no posturing, no masks. You find yourself telling them things you haven't told anyone. Laughing from your stomach, crying without apology, feeling safe without understanding why. It's like the soul knows what the mind hasn't caught up to, and while logic says, you barely know them, your heart says, you've always known them. Brief encounters with infinite impact. Sometimes it's not a deep relationship. Sometimes it's a brief, passing interaction that shakes something loose in you. A woman you met on a flight who said something that shifted your entire mindset. A man at a bookstore who gave you a book recommendation that changed how you see the world. A child in a park who smiled at you like they knew exactly what you were carrying. These moments feel small, but they stay. They land in your memory, sometimes more vividly than major life events. Why? Because they met you exactly where you were. No pretenses, no filters, just presence. Why these encounters matter. When you're seen, truly seen, even for a second, it creates an imprint. It reminds you that you're not invisible. The world is full of quiet magic. You're connected to something bigger than yourself. In Buddhist mindfulness teachings, we're told to wake up to the moment. These chance meetings are the moment. They're little nudges from the universe, or the divine, or karma, take your pick, whispering, keep going, you're not alone. But be careful, not all familiarity is good. Let's pause for a second here. Just because someone feels familiar doesn't mean they're meant to be in your life long term. Sometimes we mistake emotional intensity for spiritual significance, and sometimes familiarity comes from trauma patterns, not soul connection. You might feel drawn to someone because they echo an unresolved part of your past. Your nervous system might confuse adrenaline for alignment. So check in with yourself. Does this person bring peace or chaos? Do you feel expanded or contracted around them? Are you acting from trust or from fear? If it's the latter, it might be a karmic echo, not a soul match. When strangers heal you without knowing it. Sometimes the connection doesn't even involve words. It's a silent nod, a shared glance, a moment of mutual understanding between two people who may never see each other again. But you walk away. Lighter, you feel witnessed, and that in itself is healing. These are the people who restore your faith in humanity without ever learning your name, and sometimes that's enough. The soul doesn't need time, it just needs truth. We've been conditioned to think that deep relationships take time, and sure, time helps, but truth is what creates depth. When you meet someone who's living from their truth, or who helps you access yours, that connection defies logic. It's not about hours spent, it's about presence shared. What do you do with these people? You don't always get to keep them. Sometimes they're just passing through, and that's okay. You honor the moment, you stay open, you carry the imprint forward, because every soul you connect with brings you closer to yourself.